Wow. Crowd, huh? All people on TV land are tuned in and glued to the screen, I'm sure. You qualified.
Well, well, mic is on. I don't know why I need a mic. I'm just saying. That's for you, Trump. I know. Anytime I'm quiet, it's behavior unbecoming for me, right? I'm unrestrained, and but I pray everybody had just a great holiday. Good to see you, Kevin, and I know we did for sure. Look, just thinking along the want to gather us again and say where are we in the process, and we said we're going to approach this thing with a 5-phase sort of approach. And phase 1 was simply to discover what is the story behind the history behind our current form of government. Phase 2, and we've done that. We've listened to what the issues are. Phase 2 is what does our current form of government, how does our current form of government work? And of course, Ms. Sidra will be addressing us today, and the goal today is just a basic civics lesson. How does this work? How does the charter work? And we'll frame some of that. Phase 3, and I know that we've already been actively taking notes and writing stuff down and noting it, but phase 3 was simply what are the issues and what are the proposed solutions that are being presented. Phase 4, or what are the legal, physical, functional, financial costs of any proposed solutions. And then lastly, we have the drafting and the presentation of our findings. So that's the direction. I'm glad to have Sidra here with us today and look forward to hearing what she's going to present. Anybody else have anything you want to bring up? Will, how's the website? How's the traffic? Oh, I got to do that. Mic control. Yeah, it's spelled mic control. There you go. All right.
Thank you, Bobby. No, so I keep updating the website. People keep checking it out. I appreciate that. I checked this morning. We've had 520 visitors since we started the website. I think last meeting I stated we had almost 400, so the little bit slowed down, but I think that 400 number was a little inflated because I think it was me just refreshing the website and making sure everything looked good and just kept refreshing it. But people are, I do get some analytics. People are Google searching us. People are coming to us from LaFayetteLA.gov, and people are clicking on our website through Facebook. So if the commissioners, they want to share the website to their networks on social media, please do so. I keep it very politically neutral. It is just the documents, the videos, the presentations that we see here today. I've gotten positive feedback from my friends on Facebook. They really appreciate it. Not everybody can take time out of their day to come at 9 a.m. and come
Right.
attend our meeting. So they're really appreciative. So.
Yeah. And we appreciate you. Well, I know I do, and I know there's some effort behind that. So thank you so much. Anybody else got anything you want to, anything to bring us up to speed? Well, I did radio at one time, and you called it, you had to pay the bills, right? So it's kind of the announcements. We still got to do that in church. But I just want to welcome everyone to the City Parish Alignment Commission meeting. And as the chair of the commission, I would like to announce the following. Number one, this is a public hearing. Number two, to address the commission on any item on this agenda, fill out the speaker form and submit your information to the council clerk prior to the call of the agenda item, or you will not be given the opportunity to speak. Staff assistance is available if you need it. Items for submission to the commission should be also handed into the clerk, Ms. Veronica or Joseph. They're all the way to my left, your right. When addressing the commission, state your name and the title for the official record. The 3-minute rule will be in effect. No debating. Confrontational statements will be allowed. The front row to my left is for the media only. Food and drinks are not allowed in the auditorium. And please, we ask that you silence phones and all electronic devices. So we're going to move on. And again, not to repeat, but we asked Ms. Sidra to come. Sidra has worked for the past 3 administrations. And I'm so honored that she accepted the invitation. I asked Sidra to frame a 30-minute presentation around the following questions. What has your experience been like serving the past 3 administrations? Number 2, how has the original consolidation and the now amended Fix the Charter served our community and elected officials? In other words, what are the processes, strengths, and weaknesses of the current charter? Number 3, does the existing charter lead or lend to any unfair and or unequal balance of power? If so, what are the steps that you might propose to right them? And lastly, how can the working relationship between LCG's administration, city councils, and the parish council be strengthened? Sidra, so glad you have chosen to come. Thank you.
Am I live?
Yes, I'll make you live. Watch this. Is that the power of the mic?
You cut it off.
Not yet.
Okay, now
There
it's
I am. There I am. Well, good morning, and again, thank you for allowing me to be here. I know most of you up here, but for the vast audience that I've attracted today, along with the tens that are probably watching on AOC and online. I'm Sidra Wingirter, and I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for Lafayette Consolidated Government. I have served in this role since Mayor President Guillory took office in 2020, so just over 2 years now. As Pastor Bobby indicated, I have previously served under Joey Durrell, who was then the city parish president, was the title of the position back then. I served as an assistant to the city parish president when Mayor President Joel Robideau, so many J's. Yeah, Joel Robideau was elected. He retained me, and I became the first Chief Communications Officer, and I later served as the interim Chief Administrative Officer under his administration towards the end. And then, as I indicated, when Mayor President Guillory was elected, I helped through the transition, and ultimately I was named the permanent CAO. And so it's interesting, and I'm really proud to have served under 3 of the 3 chief executive officers for the Lafayette Consolidated Government. And those opportunities have afforded me the ability of seeing the issues that shape our community sort of in an up close and personal way. And I think I have, unique perspective from that point. And I'm proud to share with you that next month will be my 7-year anniversary, having worked within Lafayette Consolidated Government and having the pleasure and the privilege of serving the citizens of the city and parish of Lafayette. For the record, I am a longtime citizen of the city of Lafayette. My husband, Troy, and I, we own our home in Mid-City. And it's the heart of Lafayette, we like to think, and we call it. And we're raising our 2 boys right here. And Troy works at the university as a football coach. And while I wasn't privileged enough to have been born here in Lafayette, I did move here to go to the university in my 20s. And in addition to being a proud UL graduate, Ragin' Cajun, so I got my degree from there, but I also fell in love, I got married, and I started my family, and I never left. This is home. So I share that with you to let you know that I love Lafayette, and I'm committed to our future, and that well-being of our people, and that I want this city and this parish to be the place where hopefully my children are able to find, the same love for the city and prosper here, and not and for their children too. So it's important to me. Kind of makes me emotional talking about it. And like Mayor President Guillory, I'm committed to ensuring that all of our people are treated fairly no matter where we live in Lafayette. So thank you to Chairman Richard, Pastor Bobby, and the members of the City Parish Alignment Committee. I'm pleased and humbled to have this opportunity to share my perspective with you today. There are a number of different ways to kind of think about the consolidated form of government and the practical working relationship with the City of Lafayette and the Parish of Lafayette. It's often been described as a marriage because 30 years ago we said, "I do." After the Charter Commission and a major push for consolidation by the civic leaders of the City of Lafayette, including the Lafayette Chamber of Commerce, who I was also previously worked for a while as the Vice President of Operations. Those civic leaders and those leaders, including, as I said, the Chamber, they voted and promoted, and overwhelmingly the citizens voted in a very high turnout for a presidential election. 67% they voted to form this consolidated government with the parish. The main point of that, is that the citizens voted for this current form of government. They voted to get married. And in order to realize the efficiencies, they did this for the benefits and the parts to be something larger. We voted to elect our mayor parish-wide. We voted for that. And we voted to consolidate the functions of our city and our parish government. And it didn't happen by accident. It happened because we said, "I do." It's hard to deny the simple fact that the city has benefited from consolidation far more than the parish. By almost every measure, land area, tax revenue, general fund balance, growth in the ILOT payments from LUS, growth of the city under consolidation has meant prosperity for Lafayette. And at the same time, the city annexing parts of the parish's base hundreds of times over. In fact, 194 times specifically over the last 25 years has created financial challenges for the parish. And I'll discuss that in a little bit greater detail in a little while. Like many people refer to this relationship as a marriage, I actually kind of have a carpooling analogy that I like to use, and I refer to this consolidated form of government. It's one way that I use to analyze and describe and understand the relationship between the city and the parish. The way I think about it, the city and the parish, we're at the same starting point. We're at the same point of origin, and we're going to the same place. Our future, our destination is that same point. And it only makes sense for us to carpool together where we're going to get the greatest efficiency and at the least expense. In my analogy, the city owns a very nice car and they get around in it. And the parish owns a sturdy truck, and that's great for moving things around like dirt for drainage projects, right? So the city and the parish have made an agreement to share each of their assets. And actually, we voted on it 30 years ago. We agreed to carpool together to get where we're going, and we agreed to share the use of the truck to move things when we need to. That way, we all benefit from the relationship. As long as we're communicating and getting along, it works great for everybody. In this analogy, in this arrangement of the carpooling, while the city bears the cost of the car, the insurance, the gas, the maintenance, the parish shares in the cost by contributing 20%. Prior to this arrangement, the city had to cover 100% of the cost of the car without any help from the parish. Now, they pick up 20% of the tab. Frankly, the arrangement worked very well for 25 years. The city has grown in its land area by more than 20%. Its revenues grew, its fund balance grew, its ILOT from LUS grew, and as the size of the population also grew. Much of this growth came at the expense of the parish, whose revenues suffered and the fund balance suffered. So the city has benefited greatly, especially compared to the parish. Anyone who says the parish has financially benefited from consolidation at the expense of the city is ignoring the facts to make a political point that simply isn't supported in reality. The other sides of the vehicle sharing analogy has also worked well for the city. In my analogy, the parish owns the truck suitable for moving dirt and other things needed for drainage. The funding for the truck and moving things around comes from a parish tax. Before this arrangement, the truck and the dirt moving were not available to the city. Since this arrangement, the truck does most of its dirt moving inside the city. So the city has benefited from on the side of this relationship as well. So what's the problem? The problem is that after 30 years of riding in the same car together, some disagreements have emerged and they're causing tension. In other words, we're arguing about what radio station to listen to, and it's threatening the quality of the relationship that lets us share the car and the truck. The relationship is still just as beneficial. Both get the benefits of carpooling, both get the benefits of the use of the truck, and both save money and gain efficiencies. The relationship is still just as valuable to both the city and the parish, but the ride has become unpleasant because our disagreements over the whether we should listen to popular music or talk radio. It would be a shame, in my opinion, if this highly beneficial relationship were to become unworkable because we're having difficulty with a political disagreement. In my opinion, all that is needed is to communicate constructively about how to keep the ride safe, pleasant, and enjoyable for all passengers. All that's needed is to communicate, in this relationship, if this relationship were dissolved, the city would find itself alone without the benefit of the parish's financial contributions to offset the cost of its car, and it would also lose access to the parish's truck, requiring it to buy its own truck or make other arrangements when it has to move around dirt for drainage projects. That necessity alone would more than offset any potential financial benefits from to the city from a breakup. In the event that the city and parish would each have, in that event, the city and the parish would each have their own autonomy to listen to whatever radio station they wanted, but they would lose the benefits of the carpooling and the truck sharing arrangements. And that way, I suppose it is like a marriage. If you get divorced, you definitely get your autonomy back, but you no longer enjoy the benefits of being married. And just to be clear, under that scenario, you will have abandoned the commitment that you made when you took your marriage vows in the first place. I realize that this car and truck sharing analogy has its limits, and while it is a bit of an oversimplification of the complex relationship that we're in between the city and the parish, I think it does demonstrate the heart of the matter that we're discussing. In my view, what we're facing is less of a problem of our form of government and more of a political agreement between elected officials, which has been intensified by personal and philosophical differences. Political disagreements are a compelling reason to improve our communication and to seek common ground on which to build consensus. They are also a compelling reason to show maturity and good sportsmanship when we're on the losing side. Political disagreements aren't a reason to change our form of government, in my opinion. In other words, a little marriage counseling with communication, forgiveness, reconciliation, that may be a far greater benefit to a safer, more prosperous future for everyone than getting a divorce. Excuse me. So there's been a lot of discussion about the history of consolidation and the meaning of the Fix the Charter election. And I just asked, let me take a moment to address, the talking point. So the vote for consolidation back in 1992 was held during a presidential election. I know that we've heard a lot about this, and it was the highest turnout election day possible with that being a presidential election. And that consolidation vote in 1992, it passed overwhelmingly. The deconsolidation vote failed of 2011 in an overwhelming margin in the parish and by a substantial margin in the city, losing 63 to 37 overall. That was also in a high turnout election. By contrast, the Fix the Charter vote in 2018 came in a low turnout election, we can't deny that, and passed by a narrow margin. Additionally, it had no organized opposition to ensure that the robust political debate over its merits and its risks were held. Even without organized opposition, significant concerns and questions arose during the election about the shortcomings and the inconsistency of the proposed charter amendments. It was suggested that the Fix the Charter would actually bind the city and the parish more tightly together and make future charter changes harder. When Mayor President Robideau simply suggested that we might be able to do better, these concerns were aggressively shut down by its proponents. As we're seeing today, these concerns, they're well-founded. In the wake of its passage, Mayor President Robideau took steps to address these issues with the formation of the Charter Transition Committee, composed of area businesses and education leaders and elected officials, to explore the problems that were created as a result of the charter amendments. The committee concluded that the best way to resolve these issues created was by communicating and working together to find consensus between the two councils. Mayor President Robideau's concerns have been borne out by some of the recent events that we're seeing. The Protect the City Committee, formed by the City Council to advocate for total deconsolidation in the wake of the failures of the charter amendments, this is also an undeniable demonstration of the fact. Not only did the charter fix more closely bind the destinies of the city and the parish together, it also made future changes to the charter more difficult. In order to get to deconsolidation, or any charter amendment for that matter, on the ballot, it simply requires a supermajority or 2/3 vote of both the city and the parish councils. However, when the city parish council had 9 members, a 2/3 majority vote was 6 votes. The city majority districts controlled 5 of those 9 seats, so only 1 parish majority vote was needed to put a charter change on the ballot, like when deconsolidation was placed on the ballot in 2011 and the charter fix was placed on the ballot in 2018. After the charter fix, the city and the parish councils, each having only 5 members, a 2/3 majority requires 4 out of the 5 votes on both councils. So we needed 6. We now need 4 on 2 councils. At the same time, the charter fix also gave majority districts control of 3 of the 5 seats, even though the city of Lafayette has a majority of the population, which could be a violation of the democratic principles it was supposed to represent. With parish majority seats and control of the parish council, the chances of getting 4 out of 5 votes to put deconsolidation on the ballot is effectively 0. The simple fact calls into question the underlying motivation of those who are still agitating on the issue. The political deals that might have been made to gain support in the parish for their charter fix also made the future changes they want virtually impossible. Yet, people, on that side are still continuing to push for deconsolidation. It's been stated very publicly, even though they know those actions probably have made it impossible. So respectfully, it's politics, pure and simple. So let me say this for a 3rd time. They're agitating and complaining about something that is now virtually impossible to change as a direct result of the charter amendments, as well as, frankly, a rejection of the genuine questions from people who raise these issues. In the final analysis, the Charter Transition Committee concluded that all of the matters having to do with achieving consensus are in the hands and in fully control of the council. Nothing stops the councils from communicating about their issues and working together to seek consensus. The simple fact is that our councils do this all the time through a whole range of issues. For example, we hold hearings and we vote on the cost allocation between the city and the parish during each budget process. As a matter of record, the budgets passed in the last 2 years received unanimous approval by both councils, which we can't say was the case under the previous city parish council. And all that is really needed is to recognize that we're not going to win. Every single person is going to win our position every single time. And if we don't win, it doesn't mean that the government is broken. It just means that we didn't win on that particular issue. We get up the next day and we keep working for the issues that we care about. Our consolidated form of government, just as our federal form of consolidated government, was established to ensure that no one branch has too much power. Like the president and Congress, the administration and the councils have to work together to reach consensus. Political and philosophical differences are part of the fabric of our country, and that's not a reason to change our form of government. That's a reason to work together to do what's best for our parish and for our people, and to recognize that we aren't always going to get our way every time, no matter the form of government. Today, the city and the parish, we're still carpooling together. Every single day, we're in the car together. The city and the parish, we're on a ride. And at times, the city and the parish don't agree on some things while we're in the car together. But do we stop the car and get out and walk? Do we stop carpooling altogether despite the known benefits? Do we walk away from the truck that the parish owns? Or do we make the mature decision to share radio time while carpooling like we share everything else? Ultimately, the city and the parish have more in common than not, and we are better together. We have traveled far down this road. Our destinies are inextricably linked, and the undeniable fact is that every inch of the city is within the parish of Lafayette. There's no way around that. The latest hue and cry from the proponents of deconsolidation is that Lafayette should have its own mayor. They express bafflement at how things got this way. And it's like people don't want to acknowledge the fact is that we elected our mayor parish-wide because we voted to do so 30 years ago. The cry that Lafayette needs its own mayor, it's politically driven, and it's an attempt to mislead citizens into believing that they have been stripped of their voting rights. Some people think it's a cynical political attempt to create division between the city and the parish, and it has nothing to do with reality or historical fact. If we ultimately decide to get a divorce, so be it. But let's be honest, we chose to get married 30 years ago, and we've been married for 25 years now. So what we're really talking about is breaking up a relationship that we freely and consciously consented to 30 years ago. And I'd also like to address the notion that somehow the tax spending disagreements between the administration would somehow disappear if Lafayette elected its own mayor. That thinking is flawed for a number of reasons. If somehow a miracle occurred and a deconsolidation measure was placed on the ballot and it was passed by the voters, I'm fairly sure its proponents still wouldn't get what they want. The reason for this is simple. Given Mayor President Guillory's hard work, accomplishments, standing with voters, and strong financial position from local business and civic leaders, he would almost certainly be elected mayor of Lafayette. So even under a scenario of deconsolidation, the city council will still likely be dealing with Josh Guillory as mayor of Lafayette for the next 12 years. This means the city council would have the same political disagreements with the administration over issues related to spending taxes, just like we're having today. The simple fact, again, underlines the reality that it's a political difference rather than an issue that should result in changing our form of government. So let's talk about having a unified government and executive, how that makes our city and parish stronger. Let's talk about that. At the last meeting, Chairman Richard asked Mr. Robert Benoit, thanks for being here today, who has served Lafayette over the course of more than 40 years. He asked Mr. Robert for his thoughts on a single administration versus separate administration in terms of getting funding and resources from the state and federal government. And Mr. Benoit made it clear that a single mayor-president who can clearly articulate the needs of the city and parish with a unified voice is far more effective. Similarly, Commissioner Timbrow, who has extensive experience in local government here in Lafayette, pointed out the benefits of speaking with one voice not only come in the form at the state level, but also at the federal level. So let's discuss whether deconsolidation or consolidation is financially beneficial to Lafayette. By several key measures, consolidation has proven to be a significant financial win for the city, especially when compared to the parish. For 25 years, Lafayette has grown in size, tax base, revenues, and fund balance as a part of city-parish consolidated government. If you haven't read Mayor President Guillory's response to the request, at the request of the Protect the City Committee, you may want to take time to do so because several of these questions are addressed in detail. His response highlights that the city has grown and flourished financially under consolidation, particularly through annexation. From 1995 to 2020, the city annexed nearly 10 square miles, which was an increase of 21.6 in land area. The city captured taxable assets from the parish in these annexations. Annexations are a significant factor in the city's increased sales tax revenue, ILOT payments from LUS customers, and general fund balance since consolidation. Some might argue that those annexations would have happened anyway, or that the city might have done even better without consolidation. The one thing they cannot say is that the parish has somehow benefited more than the city. You can't say it. There's no way to honestly deny that the financial benefits garnered by the city have far outpaced the parish. In this case, the numbers don't lie. Period. End of story. For example, sales tax revenue for the city has increased markedly, especially when compared to the parish. Sales tax revenue for the city has more than doubled since 1995. Sales tax for the parish has increased only 26% in that same year. Doubled for the city, 26 for the parish. The advantage of the city over the parish is also true on a dollar-for-dollar comparison basis. While the city sales tax revenues have increased by $45 million per year, the parish sales tax revenue have only increased by $900,000 per year. The sustained growth in the customer base, including annexation, with sustained growth in the customer base, including annexation, the LUS in lieu of tax, which is ILOT payments, paid to the city have more than doubled from 1995 to 2020, and that represents an increase of $13 million per year. The growth of the city under consolidation has not only been reflected in sales tax revenue and ILOT payments, but it's also reflected in the growing general fund balance of the city. Since 1995, the fund balance of the city of Lafayette has more than quadrupled. By contrast, the fund balance of the parish of Lafayette has declined by almost 75% before improving recently due to the fiscal efforts of the administration and the parish councils. Consolidation has clearly favored the city of Lafayette with respect to financial benefit, especially when compared to the declining tax base of the parish as a result of annexation. As for the far often repeated claim that somehow city dollars are spent for parish purposes, both LCG's award-winning CFO Lori Toops and LCG's independent auditor Burton Colder have a professional obligation to ensure that city funds are not spent on parish matters. Not only have they both made clear in previous testimony before the councils and the Protect the City Committee that city funds are not used for parish purposes, they both have also made it clear that any such use of funds would be improper and a violation of their professional obligations. So the notion that the city funds are spent in the parish is simply a political talking point with no basis for fact in law or the application of governmental accounting principles. As previously discussed, deconsolidation would also actually result in substantial additional expenditures for the city of Lafayette. 3 examples that illustrate the problem of additional cost when separating one consolidated government into 2 deconsolidated governments. First, the city of Lafayette employees would no longer be able to participate in the parochial employment retirement system called PERS, costing the city of Lafayette substantial additional funds annually, substantial. City employees would be required to return to the municipal retirement system known as MERS, which would result in significant additional retirement costs per employee. Another major problem is with drainage. We've heard about it. The city of Lafayette would lose any remaining influence over the spending of parish millages for public works, for roads, and for drainage. As things stand today, about 80% of road and bridge operations and maintenance and 100% of drainage operations and maintenance are currently paid from a parish millage. During the consolidated council era, the city of Lafayette enjoyed virtually unfettered, I said it, unfettered control of these funds, and Lafayette enjoyed the benefits. They did. The split form of council, Lafayette would has lost significant influence because both councils have to approve, because both councils have to approve the budget, the city council still participates in those decisions. If deconsolidated, however, the city of Lafayette would lose influence over how those parish funds are spent and perhaps result in the need to raise taxes and to fund the functions and build a public works department and a drainage department in the city from scratch. As illustrated in my carpooling analogy, the city would lose all cost sharing from the parish. Currently, the parish shares expenses for property, personnel, and equipment within the city. The parish pays roughly 20% of the cost of various consolidated functions, depending on the details of the activity. In the event of deconsolidation, however, the city would have to pay for all of those same employees and the activity, but the parish would not be contributing not even a penny. As a result, the city would immediately face a prospect of layoffs or a 20% or 20% increase in these costs. And I have yet to hear an actual response on this concern. Despite the suggestion that deconsolidation would save the city money, the reality is that consolidation allows the city and the parish to share expenses, reducing the strain on city taxpayers. The bottom line is that deconsolidation would result in considerable expense to the city and its taxpayers. Proponents of deconsolidation fail to acknowledge the shared mutual interests of the residents of the city and the parish. And if you remember anything from what I'm saying here today and what I'm sharing, I'd like you to please remember this. The city council and the parish council and the administration agree and work together with a great spirit of cooperation on more than 95% of our issues, more than 95% of the time. And in fact, is really probably 98% of the issues, 98% of the time. My point is, we should be communicating and we should be working through our differences and not trying to destroy the work of the visionary citizens of Lafayette who set us on this path together more than 30 years ago. We don't want to lose the benefits of this great partnership that has improved our city in so many measurable and tangible ways, which I hope I've demonstrated. We got married for a reason, and we decided to carpool for a reason, and those reasons are more valid today than ever. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for allowing me to share my perspective, and I look forward to working with you all to make our city and parish the best it possibly can be.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Sidra.
Thank you.
Yeah, incredible. Appreciate you. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. If you'll hang out, I think maybe we'll field some questions, and so we'll get into the.
Should I sit?
Yes, sure. It's fine. All right. Brian?
Sid, don't go far. You still got some questions to answer. Thanks for a great presentation. In your analogy on the carpool, though, I think the parish truck, it does another job too, right, on roads? I know you probably alluded to it in your rest of your thing, but I just want to say it
It's
straight.
true.
That truck does dirt,
It's true.
drainage and roads.
Yeah, it's got
And
asphalt in the back and
on the roads, it's what, 60% of the village goes to the city?
to the city. I don't want to speak incorrectly, but I think that's right. That's
Okay.
right.
Close
because-
to it, okay.
Yeah, if you drive on a parish road, you know that a lot of it is, there's needs.
And it was a great analogy, but I can go to a real business analogy. I own a business. I have 4 departments basically, or I have commercial, residential, service, and construction. If I went in that business and hired a director for each department, I would make no money. My price, well, if I wanted to make money, my price would be outrageous.
Right.
In other words, I'd have to raise my prices,
Right.
which
Would put you out of
alludes,
business.
and alludes to, and government as raising taxes.
Right.
And it just doesn't make sense to me to do that when one guy can oversee different departments. So it's a true business analogy, and it's true to the numbers. So thank you again.
Thank
And
you.
I'll talk to you later.
Mr. Purvis?
Thank you, Sidra. How you doing? Good to see you again.
Thank you. Likewise.
Good. How much time do you think throughout y'all weeks or months that y'all put on planning for the parish? And when I talk of the parish, I talk of the unincorporated areas. Like in y'all planning meetings, those different things of that nature. How much time do you think is put toward the benefit of the parish today and as it in the future?
So in thinking about it, it's kind of funny. Through the course of the last 2 years, we are certainly more cognizant of time that we spend specifically on the city and the parish, but we don't necessarily think about it when we're going into it, so it's kind of hard. However, what I will say is that the relationship with Mayor President Guillory and the outlying mayors is a lot more healthy and robust than it has been in previous years. The spirit of cooperation has grown intensely, just as I've talked about the city and the parish relationship and how we work on things together. We've done a better job of working with the other mayors because we know that we don't want to pave a road and stop at, the Scott city line. And so the cooperation with the other mayors has grown and to the benefit of everybody. So I think I'd be probably overstating if I said 20% of our time is spent on parish planning, but in the increased relationships that we do with, drainage, Like, we have, regular meetings with the mayors, we have regular meetings with their drainage department. It's grown a lot. So I don't think it's probably 20%, but, I'll go as far as to say 20%, whereas, sincerely, probably most of my day is spent 95% on city matters.
City matters, okay. When we talk about grant dollars, and I think y'all spoke about it with Robert on the last time, I couldn't attend the meeting, on the grant dollars that we going after throughout the HUD or wherever we go and get it, are we using the numbers of the people that live in unincorporated areas of the parish?
Because we are a consolidated government, we actually do have the benefit of counting the unincorporated residents in our population, and that does grow our numbers in our CDBG dollars, yes.
Okay. By no means, I know you said something earlier, but it kind of struck me a little bit. By no means I'm here to circumvent any kind of vote or anything against Josh. I mean, Josh is doing, I think, a good job is what he's doing. I was appointed by the area mayors just to make sure that we continue and to look. And as we talk, and as I said many times, as I speak, when I talk about Parish, I talk in unincorporated areas.
Correct, right.
Because at the end of the day, these are the people that the services are not going to go to, that they're not reaching right now as much as we'd like to see. So that's why I asked with the grant dollars. If we are using the numbers of those people, why can't we bring some of the dollars into those people? Okay? I heard you say it many times that Lafayette benefited immensely from consolidation. But if Lafayette's going to be the only one that's going to benefit from consolidation, what's going to happen to the unincorporated areas of the parish?
Sure. I hear you loud and clear, and I think that we can always work to do better by all of our citizens. I will say that one of the recent efforts that we've been able to do and to support not just the citizens of the unincorporated areas, but the other municipalities, is through our emergency rental assistance program, and that's available to everybody. And we've been successful in disseminating $11.4 million recently for people who are experiencing rental issues.
Assistance.
So, and that's, I don't have the breakdown, Mr. Morrison, on what that means for the city of Lafayette versus the unincorporated areas versus the other municipalities, but we've made a concerted effort to make sure that those dollars are available for everybody. So I think we're halfway through right now with $11.4 million being distributed, so there's another 11.4. So if you're listening, please know that you're eligible for it. We've done a lot to promote that, and we actually we have Mr. Doyle Boudreau, who works with the administration to go out into the unincorporated areas and into the other municipalities to make sure that this is available to them as well.
And listen, I applaud that. I just think we need to have a little bit more efforts in the unincorporated areas.
I completely respect that.
Okay, the small towns which I represent and which I live in, definitely, we have the avenues to get that information out. I
agree.
But in unincorporated areas of the parish, again, we don't.
Right.
So that's kind of the thing that, that I'm kind of focusing on. And when we talk about the city is going to lose a lot of dollars if we go to deconsolidation because of retirement.
Right.
The small towns, their retirement is in the MERS, right?
The small towns' retirement is in MERS or PERS?
Is in the MERS.
I think they're in MERS.
Yeah, they're in
Yeah.
MERS. They're in MERS. So they are paying that retirement now, as you speak, of the city losing the parochial.
Correct.
Right. Because the parochial is more the parish retirement, right? Before consolidation, the parish was parochial.
Correct.
And the city was MERS.
Municipal, right.
Right.
And on
So,
parochial, they have like, fourth district.
You want to step up to the,
Yeah.
right. But
Robert, would you do us a favor? Would you go ahead and step up to the mic real quick to answer that, if you don't mind? You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Like that, we can.
Yeah, but, and Robert, I agree to have many, but in this sequence, if the city and the parish splits.
Gotcha.
The parish goes to parochial.
Right.
And the city goes to MERS.
That would only be new hires. It would not-
Okay,
it
just
would-
new hires.
Yes, like
Okay.
when we changed the bill last year, it only we went from MERS to PERS, but only for new hires. It didn't affect anybody that had
Okay,
been employed before.
okay. So that person will know that going in.
Yes.
That they would contribute more to the retirement
Right.
than the city,
It
would be
happened kind
doing.
of just like 10 years earlier when we went from PERS to MERS.
Yeah, okay.
Is there a possibility that you could give us a dollar amount or a percentage amount in the difference? The benefit of.
Yeah, right now, as of today, the employer share of PERS is 11.5%. For every dollar we pay an employee that's in parochial, we'll put up 11.5%. MERS is 29.5%, almost triple. And that would be every single employee that we have except foreign police who are in their own retirement systems.
That would be new hires,
Correct.
Correct, yes, sir.
new hires.
So where's the difference made up? The employee is paying that difference?
No,
city.
the whichever entity, whether it's the city or the parish, and under a deconsolidation scenario, that would be coming out of that. Comes from the taxpayers.
Right, the LCG portion. Now, the employee's portion is a little bit more in MERS than PERS as well. It's 0.5% more.
Okay.
From the employee
So the
portion.
employees
But the
contribute
big-
a greater amount as well.
Absolutely.
So 11% versus,
29 point,
29%.
11.5 and 29.5,
That's substantial.
yes.
Yeah. And you said there were 3 reasons: retirement, drainage, and what was the third? I didn't catch that.
retirement,
Drainage, the drainage dollars would all of a sudden
drainage,
disappear from the city
and
and go into the parish. And roads would disappear too?
roads, yes. Yeah, roads.
And roads. So that would disappear, those dollars would disappear from the city. And-
Well, the city would no longer have influence over how those
Control over those dollars.
They wouldn't have influence over how
Okay.
those dollars are spent.
Okay, so right now. Those dollars would go to the parish. It would go all to the parish council.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it would still have to have something, huh? No, you don't have to. Wouldn't have to have none?
They
wouldn't have that much.
It's about influence, yeah. Gold.
There would be no more gravel road.
Wizard of Oz style.
Let's get him go. Let's get him go. Well, Sidra, I think, now, one thing I wanted to ask. I know the city has grown immensely because of consolidation. But I really believe, though, even with our consolidation, with the future of the city, even though consolidation wouldn't have passed, would have still grown this way. I don't think consolidation made the city annex more property. I don't think consolidation made the city grow and make more dollars. I don't think that. Not when it comes to the heart of the city. I think the city would have grown no matter what. 20 years from now, if we hear 50 years from now, and it could be deconsolidated, the city's going to grow. And the city's going to be Lafayette, period. And it's going to continue growing. So I find it, I know everybody say that the city immensely benefited from deconsolidation, okay? And the parish did not. Losing money, losing services, losing all these things. I still really believe that if deconsolidation wouldn't happen, now, of course, it would have cost more, but I'm not talking about cost, but the growth of the city, I think, would have still happened. I don't think that would have stopped. And I don't think the city would have stopped annexing, because when Douglas Strapp was the mayor, the city wasn't consolidated, right? And they were doing a lot of annexations.
And Mr. Morrison, if I indicated that the annexations increased because of consolidation. That was not my intent. I was simply saying that since consolidation and through annexations, the city has benefited honestly to the detriment of the parish, as the parish has lost those assets, those
Yes.
taxable assets.
Right. Got it. Thank you, Sidra. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Thank you, Sidra, for coming to speak with us. I appreciate it, and I think you echoed a lot of what the mayor president has in his response to Protect the City Committee, which I did read. So I do see a lot of correlation between what you said and what he said. I'm the numbers guy. I'm the accountant.
I know.
Right? I'm the CPA.
It's intimidating.
So I like numbers. I like to see the data. I like to see the numbers. And you said numerous times that the data bears this out, right?
Correct.
We can argue about our political differences, but let's look at the data. So in your analogy, you kind of had the car and the truck, and we're carpooling, right? And the city's paying 80%, the parish is paying 20%, and we're fighting over the radio station, if I summarized it. Does the city get 80% of the radio time?
Does the city, well, I think I said that the city does.
The
I
city
mean,
does.
to respond to Mr. Morrison, I said I think that it's very fair to say that the city gets 80% of my time, and it's probably much higher than that.
So, and Josh, in his response, he says that too. On question 6, to protect the city committee, he states, each consolidated service has a different city parish share, depending on the amount of work done within the city versus in the parish. Some are 80-20, some are 85-15, depending on the actual percentage of services provided. And that's important. So I would be very comfortable if I could, in our consolidated form of government, if I could see that support that he's referring to.
Sure.
As the CAO, you supervise every department of LCG except legal, but every department of LCG, you oversee it. Can
read the
you
charter.
provide our commission with that support, that this department spends 85% of their time on city, this department spends 80% of their time on city?
Well, you're asking me a question that you already know the answer to, which is no, I cannot, because we don't track that way. And of course, Lori Toops, appear, in terms of being as an upstanding CPA and accountant. She knows as well as you know that it's very complex. And so, no, I simply, simply put, I cannot show you the backup that I spend 80% of my time on the city, or that Chad Nava spends 80% of his time on the city. I think what the backup does show is when you drill down into the finances and that you see where the projects or where the money is being spent. I mean, the time that people are working is where the money is being spent. So the city or whether it be a consolidated apartment, well, we're only in a consolidated apartment, look at where the money's being spent. That's where the time is being spent.
So before the 80-20, we used to be like 55-45, based on population.
Under Mayor President Durrell, well,
Right.
City Parish President Joey Durrell, yeah.
So did anything change? Like, did the amount of time people spent, or the money being spent, change from Durrell to Robideau and Guillory?
I would say no. It was just a philosophical difference on how the allocation should occur. And as Ms. Toops has stated many times, that the parish presidents have the ability to make a recommendation, and the councils will adopt or propose changes to the allocations. And that both the approach that City Parish President Durrell and then later Mayor President Robideau and Mayor President Guillory have taken to the allocations, those are both acceptable forms of the allocation split per the experts that we hired to approve our allocation. So they're both acceptable. However, the difference being is that Mr. Durrell chose to divide it by the city and parish populations versus Mayor President Robideau chose to allocate it more appropriately on how the workings and the projects were being spent. And 80% was a reasonable number to conclude that those dollars and that effort was going into the city versus into the parish.
So it comes to the councils, like the mayor
does.
president proposes 80-20 and the councils can say yes, no, or
It does.
change it. I remember during the first budget process under the new Fix the Charter government, not the most recent one, but the one before.
Right.
I was tuned into that, and I remember Councilwoman Abear, for one department, didn't want to do 80-20. I believe it was the mayor president's office, fact check me, but I think it was that. It was 80-20 she wasn't comfortable with. She was told by Lori Toops in the meeting that she couldn't change the 80% because then it would change the parish's percentage, and you can't do it. Then you would have to rebalance all the parish books at that point. Could we build a mechanism into our budget process that council members on both sides can turn the levers more a little bit on these allocation formulas, be empowered to do that? Maybe not blow up consolidation, but give them the power to turn those levers. So this department, maybe not every single department needs to be 80-20. Maybe some departments it makes sense 80-20, but some departments not, and maybe they turn it back to 55-45. Could that be built into the next budget process?
So without speaking for Lori directly, and I know she's tuned in and her head might be exploding right now.
Please come down, Lori.
What I would say is that, as has been done, I think, and I'm looking at the council people to refresh me on this, I think what needs to be done is much earlier in the budget process.
Okay.
Those discussions need to be had.
Okay.
Because once we come to the public process, as you can imagine, being a CPA, changing one number here has a significant domino effect on all the other numbers. So we have talked about this now this will be going into our third budget under this form of government, of let's drill down into the allocations. 2020 was not the right time because right about the time those discussions would had, we were in the height of COVID, and frankly, everybody was sort of, distancing. So, I would say that we need to have those discussions in the very near future.
Okay.
Rather than, having that happen at the public budget process. Like, let's work that out in advance.
And I see Nanette's up next, so maybe if you want to chime in at this point.
Sandra, if you don't mind, right, here's the civics lesson I was asking,
Okay.
all right? The conversation that I've heard so far, of course, communication not always what's said, what's heard, it seems that there's the push, like the problem is in the letter of the law. It's in the charter. And so my question is, the basic civics, with your knowledge, right, this operating knowledge that you have, 3 administrations, the charter of the state, you're in this day and out. Does it require, any change to the charter to actually fix this solution? How does this work?
No.
Help me. I'm not on the council
No.
right now.
No, it doesn't, and I think I said it, and I'll say it again, but I really want to bring home that it boils down to communication. I mean, we have regular meetings with the council members. The council members have regular meetings with themselves without having a walk-in quorum, just to clarify that. It's all about working together, and I don't just say that because that's what I believe. It's what I know to be true. Those relationships, having those meetings, it's not always easy. We don't always see eye to eye. We have philosophical and political differences, but at some point we have to come to an agreement. We have to come to, a point of consensus. Sure. At some point, somebody's going to either give or somebody's going to get outvoted. And so that's where, when the Charter Transition Committee came in, and many of the council members participated in that process, and ultimately, all of the questions that were asked, all of the potential solutions lay at the feet of the councils through a spirit of cooperation.
So and again, correct me if I'm misrepresenting anything. So if I'm Ms. Abear and I'm asking the question, right, I would like to see this allocation change. And Ms. Lori responds by saying that can't. She's not speaking from a legal perspective. She was just saying from an accounting perspective, what you're asking me to do is not feasible at this time.
We will
Right.
miss the deadlines to adopt our budget, and we won't, yes.
So, again, if I was sitting on the council and I said, no, this is really important to me, as a councilman, this is really important to me, I don't want to let this die. What do we have to do to fix this allocation? Is it within the power or the scope of the council to drive that forward?
Just in the budget hearings, address it during budget hearings.
You adjust the budget hearings just so that we're still within the timelines of the adoption period, because we have to have it adopted by a certain period, otherwise
That's law.
50%, right.
That's law.
That's in the charter, it's in the state legislative law that, yeah.
So the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Like, so it's the problem that I hear, right, it's not the problem with the charter, it was the problem in the process of what exists within the charter,
Sure, I
correct?
think that's fair to say.
Right? Am I right in saying that? You guys tracking?
Yeah.
I'm just point of clarification, or trying to figure that out. Brian,
Correct.
well, let me get you. Hold on, Brian. What'd you say?
Good. For the record, we did that, we fixed one of the allocations at our last, at the budget this last year with the IS&T allocation,
Correct.
which is now fixed and agreed on by both councils. So
Gotcha.
I think I don't see a problem doing with the rest of them, which we need to, if it's broke, let's fix it. So.
Got you. Ms. Cook?
Yeah, actually, to what Mr. Tabor's talking about, it's true, we did that for a line item.
Yes.
Which is the difference. I mean, it would be difficult at a budget hearing to come and say, okay, I want to change, Public Works allocation formula across the board. That would totally, talk about her head blow up right off her head right there. And that's probably waiting at the last minute. I mean, that's when we should be doing stuff like that, like you said.
Right now.
Tomorrow, as
Right.
opposed to at that point. But it was one single line item, and Lori was very amenable to making those changes for that, and she did have to finagle some numbers around, but it was just that one line item. So but that's a little different than changing a allocation formula completely department by department. So that's something that is a bigger discussion. So, but yeah, anyway, I just have a couple of things to say. And Sidra, thank you so much, because you do have a wealth of knowledge and, historical information, being with 3 administrations. And it's interesting, all of your bosses started with a J. I didn't even think about that. So, yeah, I mean.
And then there was Lowell in there too. So we had Joey, Joel, Lowell, Josh.
They all kind of, they definitely went together. So we have a
Yeah.
pattern going here, yeah.
That's why I always
Let's change
pause
the
before
charter, you
saying
can't have no
the name.
J's.
Let's put that, that's right.
She had the alphabet.
But one of
Gotta
the
go with the
things,
key, right? That's the next
we
one.
talk a lot about deconsolidation in your report, and I kind of think we might be past that up
Okay.
here. I mean, I feel like the PTC, last time Jan came, I think we've realized maybe that's not a route we are able to do based on the things that you talked about, the benefits of the numbers when we're together and the carpooling sharing thing. So I kind of think that we're not really so much fixated on that. At least I'm not. I mean, I feel like communication, like you said, is so important, and working with allocations are very important, that we work with those numbers to make sure that, fair. What's fair? Define fair. Who knows? I mean, life is not fair. So there's a lot of times when maybe what I think is fair, someone else might not think. So again, it's a communication issue. I guess, the one thing that I do think that, is the ability for the citizens of Lafayette to be able to vote on their own representation, as opposed to the other municipalities voting on it. And maybe that's too simple. Maybe I'm dreaming that might happen, but I still think that that's something that, from what I'm understanding, citizens of the city of Lafayette want. And so I guess what I want to know from you is, how can that work if we have a mayor of Lafayette, a parish president, and a CAO like yourself within one consolidated government? And I feel like I'd like to see us maybe moving toward some ideas about how that could work, because I feel like in that instance, we would have the best of both worlds. Josh would win as the mayor of Lafayette, according to your predictions. And
I think, yeah, I think so.
and beautiful. This is not, again, we have
I
said this, I mean,
understand.
this is not
I understand.
a go get after Josh issue. It's more of a representation issue. And so, you know, if that were the case, then we would have someone looking out for the city, we would have someone looking out for the parish, and, you know, the unincorporated as well as the other municipalities would benefit from that as well in terms of the representation like Robert Benoit talked about at the state level. They have their mayor, they have a parish president. We, Lafayette, would have our mayor and a parish president. So that's really where I'm fixated on at this point. How do we get better representation for the citizens of Lafayette? Because again, you know, we talk about the growth of Lafayette. Currently, one of the last reports we got in the whole parish, Lafayette grew less than the other municipalities. So while we're growing, you know, we're not growing at the rate that the other municipalities are going. And I'm not saying that, okay, we have a mayor, wow, we're going to grow faster than anybody else now. I just think it would be in that word fair, in fairness, that we have, just like the other municipalities, we have a person particularly focused on the city of Lafayette, what's happening within those borders, and then the parish would benefit from someone particularly just focusing on the unincorporated as well as assisting the other municipalities. So, you know, that's kind of, if we're looking at those growth numbers, that's what concerns me. I mean, again, we're 51% right now of the total population. We're not killing it here in Lafayette. I mean, so I think that it's a matter of making sure we might be at a critical point where we need to make a change. While consolidation was 30 years ago, it was great, but, you know, things change. Communities change, and maybe it's not quite as effective as it is now, but I'm not saying we get rid of it, but we try to tweak within the system that we have. And that would, to me, that would be something.
May I say something?
Sure,
Because you
yes.
look like you have a note there, so you won't
Yeah.
forget. I sincerely don't know a scenario where that works, and I've not heard a scenario where that works. I haven't heard a scenario where we have a mayor and we have a parish president and we have consolidated departments reporting to both, and how that works. Because under those scenarios, it's possible that we have divergent directions. And so how does the Public Works Director do something for the mayor that is in contrast to what he's being directed to do by the parish president? I mean, I sincerely don't know how that would work. So in that scenario, it seems to me that it just becomes that, you know, it's that one little
Right.
tear in the fabric, and then from there, it just splits the entire fabric of our government, where we now have Public Works Director for the city, Public Works Director for the parish. 'Cause I really don't know how you would do it otherwise.
No, you are correct. That is the challenge that we've kind of been having these discussions about how that would work. You know, how would we settle those maybe disagreements? But I think about it right now. Let's say if there's a project some of the citizens of Lafayette want Public Works project, but then maybe there's something that needs to happen in the unincorporated area as well.
Right.
We still have that issue of, okay, you have one person just making that decision, but there's still a conflict if he's wearing both hats. Do I do it in the city? Do I do it in the parish? So, you know, I
Well,
feel
and who
like
appoints those guys? Who
Say-
who appoints them, the mayor or the parish president?
Well, that would be the discussion, and then if we go back to your, you know, initially communication, being able to communicate and all work together, that would be a communication issue and a working together of both of those entities to decide, you know, you have a CAO, you have a Public Works Director, how that works. Now, you know, again, there's lots of work to be done on that. I'm venting, or I'm expressing, you know, how maybe we do that, and no, we don't have it worked out yet, but I guess in my mind, if we look at the possibility of communication and working together, you know, that maybe there would be something that works along those lines, I don't know.
We're just communicating with more people now.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah.
really putting a lot of faith that,
Yeah.
you know, all the problems that we have today aren't going to exist in our future, you know,
Don't they, in the old saying,
scenario.
more heads are better than none? You know, isn't that the philosophy? I don't know. Okay, let me ask you something about the sales tax numbers that you were talking about, the increase. Are you taking into consideration the other municipalities as well, or just the city of Lafayette and the unincorporated?
Correct, just the city of Lafayette.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, and then one more thing that I have to say, and, you know, I'm not
Uh-oh,
trying to
here it
cause.
comes.
I'm sorry. Well, you know, the discussion about how our you know, our CPAs and Lori would not let city money be spent outside because that would, outside of the city of Lafayette, and, you know, that can't happen, and that's never happened. Well, you know, when we discovered that the city millage for Parks and Rec was being
Correct.
spent outside in the parish.
Outside, correct, and that was something that we all agreed that shouldn't, and ironically, the Parks and Recreation Department was the first consolidated department.
Right.
So you're
And so-
absolutely right.
And maybe that's where maybe the concern, or the, you know, the ongoing statement of where we're spending money outside of the city that shouldn't be, and maybe that's when that conversation started. Is it happening now? I'm not suggesting that, but,
Yeah.
but it did happen, so that, I guess.
Sorry?
We fixed the Parish Park, so we took it.
We did.
Right.
In
so
that scenario, we fixed it. So you're right, there is that evidence that's been held up as something, but, you know, police money is not being spent in the parish. LUS
Correct.
money is not being spent in the parish. City
No, and-
departments are focused on the city.
And I think that was a trust issue at the beginning with that, and I feel like as we move forward,
I agree.
I believe you. I feel like
Yeah, I agree.
that's the scenario, and so,
Yeah.
once that was cleared up, I think it was good.
Sure.
So I think that's when that's kind of when that conversation started. I don't think it's still going on, but I think, well, it's not going on right here, so.
Here, yes.
Not here. so.
Agreed, and thank you.
All right, well, that's it. That's all I have. Thanks, David.
Sure.
Tim Brown?
Thank you for spending your time with us this morning. I know you've got a hectic schedule, and 2 hours out of your schedule in a day puts you way behind, so you probably need to call Troy and take care of the kids tonight.
Yeah,
So.
well, yes, exactly.
A couple of things before I go into my main point. You know, we talk about representation on the city. You have 5 council members that oversee the budget, approve the budget. You have them overseeing LUS. So I don't get where the issue is, we have no representation. And if we don't, then we don't need the council members. That's the way I look at it. I mean, but we do. So, but anyway, coming back to consolidation. We talk about Parish hasn't received their share, fair share, and things like that. And I was directly involved in a lot of grant writing when I was with the city Parish, later. One example that comes to mind is probably one of the biggest projects we worked on, and the one that's dearest to my heart was the community right up to Indian Bayou. You had a 1.5 square mile of residents that had 46 cases of cancer.
Wow.
Because of the drinking water. If not for consolidation, we would have never been able to bring them fresh water to the, I call it Indian Bayou area. Basically, consolidation created more numbers in population, which allowed us to go after bigger chunks of money. So and I've been sitting here, and I hear it over the past years, not just this group, but I've heard over the years that, you know, consolidation didn't work. Look, I know it'd be a lot to do, but if you go back and look at the additional funds we received in this parish.
Sure.
Because of consolidation, it far outweighs any conversation that you could put on this table today. So, you know, that's my 2 cents. Rob Benoit and I worked on projects together. Terry
sorry.
Huval and I, Terry on the water project was very instrumental in helping us get water to these people. But that was one project, and that's just one of many that we brought services to because of consolidation. And like I said in the last meeting, we may have not seen it initially, but over time, we well benefited over consolidation. And I think there's more money in the future to come down because of consolidation, but that was it. But also want to mention to the commission that I'm going to be leaving a little early. My father's getting an award today at the Hyman Center for the first responders.
Oh, yeah, for the,
And I'll be excusing myself a little early, so if you see me leave, I'm not interested, but you know, when Dad calls, I'll go. So, but again, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
absolutely.
That's it.
Will?
Well, congratulations to your father.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Sidra, we have 10 questions. The Parish Council gave us 10 questions that we're supposed to answer as part of our commission. So what I like to do with all of our speakers is look at the questions and kind of pose some of them to our speakers that I think they may be best suited to answering to help us guide our response. And I want to turn the conversation to Fix the Charter. One of the questions asked to us, would a repeal of the Fix the Charter amendments benefit the parish? And the mayor president, his response to protect the city committee, called Fix the Charter a disaster. In fact, it's one of the headings of one of his paragraphs, so it's in big, bold text. He calls it the Fix the Charter disaster. He says, from 1996 to 2019, the city of Lafayette enjoyed virtually unfettered control over the budget, finances, and operations of LCG. And I think you said that exact same sentence. I think I heard you say it.
I did, and I repeat it. I said it,
You said
unfettered.
it, and you did it so well too, because I think you paused and you're like, yeah, I said it. Like, I think you had that. We're a parish commission, right? We're not a city commission. We're a parish commission. We're looking at parish operations. And what I'm seeing with this is that Fix the Charter, for the first time in 25 years, gave the parish some control that was otherwise completely controlled by the city. Am I understanding that right?
I would say that the parish has a larger influence over consolidated efforts that they did not have. And I would say, looking at Councilman Nakane, I probably would say that that's probably the case under the split councils. I would think that they would have a greater influence over consolidated efforts. Well, I mean,
Well,
yeah, because of the
You
greater
got to remember when,
representation.
and even when Purvis served, I followed Purvis and Miss Mary when I came in. Back then, it was 9, but you had 5 majority city and 4 rural. So back in those days, if, your elected officials didn't work together for the better of the whole parish, then obviously, yes, the city could have dominated the parish 5-4 all day long. With it now, I would tell you that repealing what we just did, I think, is a huge mistake for the simple fact that this parish council has done more for the city of Lafayette by getting out of the way, because 5 parish guys can focus on that parks and recreation situation. We could fix that. We can go and fix the jail. We can work with the court. There's more eyes on those things that, in my opinion, got neglected under the previous consolidation, just for the simple fact that even if the 4 parish guys wanted to work on something with the parish, we'd come to a meeting and there would be 50 items on the agenda and 45 of them would be strictly city, and you'd have to deal with the city police. So, I mean, I would just say that right now, I think parish is I think the voters made the right choice. I don't think it was a bad thing at all. Rush to charter, whatever you want to call it. I wasn't part of it, but I will tell you that the goal and the vision was for the parish and the unincorporated area to have that focus that we've been neglected on. And I think the form that we have right now, the way we operate, I think the parish it fits really good. And I think that we're able to work with you guys in fixing some things. And definitely, I'm all ears on the allocation. If it makes sense, we just have to work together, So to answer your question, I think right now, I would say it's 50-50. I wouldn't say that the parish has a leg up. I would say that we're in the same boat as the city was previous years, where you got 5 people, so that's where I think it's at.
Well, I heard, what I just heard was that, yes, it is to the benefit, better for the parish.
Yeah.
I did hear that. And Fix the Charter did forfeit some of the voting influence that it had for the city.
the city on
right?
parish
It
matters.
forfeited that.
Yeah.
It gave that up. It surrendered that. I apologize.
Well, it also gave the voters that taxation with representation, because now, if you're a city resident, you have 2 elected officials that you vote on. You vote on one person that handles your parish taxes, then you vote on your city legislative to handle your city taxes, where before, it wasn't the case. You had somebody like myself or Mr. Morrison voting on an LUS matter, and maybe we had 5% of that. I mean, and it put us in a lot of times in a bad situation when there was a rate increase, maybe, why you voting on it, you only have 5% of the deal. So now, the parish guys, we don't mess with a water deal or LUS or a fiber situation. So, but I think what you have now, it benefits both the city and the parish, because you have representation on both sides of your taxes. So that's where I see it's a plus.
Okay. And that
On the
that
parish
leads-
side, but to answer
Right.
your question, I think where you're getting at is, yes, under the previous form of consolidation, absolutely, the city had more influence, and yes, absolutely.
So And that leads me to one of our other questions was how do we improve the working relationship of everybody, right? How do we make everyone happy and have them work together? If the city is offering up some of its control over matters it probably shouldn't have had any control over, that seems to be a really great way to want to work well with everybody. And so when we talk to the matters over city matters, that the parish should probably give, like on the budget, some of these city-only matters where the parish council might object or otherwise prevent the city from trying to achieve what they want to do. I think I think fix the charter improved the working relationship, like Kevin's saying. And do you agree with that, or am I off? Am I off?
Well, I don't think that the charter amendments had anything to do specifically with the relationships. I think that when we had the split councils, everybody went into it under a new, working relationship. Everybody had, as Councilman Nakhan indicated, they were purely focused, at least in the beginning, on parish items. City was focused on city items, and I think that that was good. I think what it boiled down to and where we really started to have communication issues, when we got to the budget process. And, the budget process, and, it's dictated in the charter that, that it's a joint adoption, that everybody has to agree. And so I don't think that the charter amendments fixed any relationship problems or communication problems, because I think it's just human nature that as we went through the course of, the car ride, or we went, we hit, whatever milestone in our marriage, that there was a point to where, there was a little bit of a sticking point. I think that since then, we have everybody, through the councils, they've come to an agreement that they understand that even if it's a joint matter, or at a joint budget hearing, if it's a city matter, I think that the parish would like to step out and let the city, determine those issues. So I don't think that the amendments, to answer your question, had anything to do with improving communication. I don't, because I think that through the course of human nature, we're just going to encounter things that we don't necessarily automatically come to agreement on, and we have to work through that.
Okay, but the first question, would a repeal of fix the charter, would that serve the best interests of the parish of Lafayette?
Would a repeal
If
serve
we
the best
went back to a
interests of
consolidated
Lafayette?
council that the parish has a minority on,
I don't, to be honest with you, I can tell you, I don't really know. It's not something I spend a lot of time on, because I just don't see that it's going to be ever happening. So,
okay.
Say, Will, you good? Hey, so just a question. I'm going to interject. Oh, I got to get out of this. So I'm sorry. Just a question to interject. Right. Again, the existing charter does not prevent the existing councils to create some sort of, maybe among itself, a memorandum of understanding. Correct. Or anything like that that would clearly articulate this is a city issue, this is a parish issue, and this is how we're going to deal with those things in regards to any allocations. Or am I correct in saying that?
yeah, that's correct. And, I'm not sure, I'm looking at V now, because, when the councils adopt their rules of what do we call it? The rules and procedures, it could be, adopted in that. Now, it's just through resolution, so it's not law, it's just the understanding that this is the council's will. But it could be possible, I believe, that could be written into the rules and procedures. To further, to make it even stronger, we don't have an attorney here, but, it's been recommended on multiple occasions, and perhaps the councils are considering this to codify it, to create an ordinance to say, this is how we interact, and these are our rules of engagement on this particular matter, narrow scope it. But it is in the hands of the councils to work that out. And I truly believe that that we're on the right path, and if they wanted to further solidify and codify that for, future, that they could absolutely do that as well.
Thank you.
Sidra, Annette brought something up about employees. As of today, our public work employee, do we split those salaries also, like
It's-
employees?
It is through, it depends, there's different divisions, but it is a consolidated department. Yes, and so the parish does pay a portion of those salaries, and a majority of them come from the,
The city?
yeah.
Is that,
Did I say that right? No, I said it backwards.
okay?
Yeah, I said it backwards. But it depends on, well, and so I'm also thinking, now that we've split out traffic roads and bridges too, it's,
That gets a little
Yeah.
confusing.
What is it, Brown?
But most of the employees in the street section and drainage section are paid with the parish-wide road and bridge and drainage millages.
Okay, so that would be easy to dictate who working in the parish, who working in the city, if you would, I mean, as we talked about earlier, what Lynette was saying about how do we, we communicate and get certain people doing certain things. If the parish millage is paying it and the city is and paying both of them, but I mean, if we would say, you know what, we got 5 employees for the parish through drainage, they pay through the parish, that's who the parish president would dictate where they would go, and then the rest would be from the city. That's just me talking out loud. I might be wrong.
I think the flaw in that is that the city is in the parish, and so the parish guys
Yeah,
can
but
work in
but
this.
Sylvia, Scott is in the parish,
Right.
okay? Lafayette, I mean, the council is in the parish, and they're doing it. Do so. They're doing it. They're all doing it. And then we said earlier that they have a great working relationship with Josh. So that communication can stand. So that's what we try, because what Lynette is saying is kind of, the mindset of some of us here, okay? Not to blow this up, but to really look at how can we exist and continue growing the city and the parish and protecting and doing those things. So if there's anything possible that you guys can think of, even in the future, and bring it to us, Bobby, since the question been posed, how can that happen? So if it's being paid through a parish-wide tax that we all paying, all of us are paying,
Correct.
that could be dictated very easily to me, because of course you don't want to need as much employees that you have in the city and the parish. I mean, you want to need, the city is going to have a lot more employees than the parish has. But those people could be paid and dictated by that parish person. Or even that same director could say, you know what, guys, these are where you're going today in the parish. And these are where you're going today. The city guys will do what they have to do, right? Does that make sense? Huh? Does that make a little bit of sense? Maybe a little bit? That's the tricky part. But,
Sounds complicated to me, Purvis.
Yeah. Kevin, it's complicated?
It's complicated to me.
It's complicated, but I mean, that's one of those things that you just have to.
To fix.
It's a job, and we elect them to do that job, so it'll vary from year to year when you're doing allocations
Might have
and
another
such as
guy
this.
come in and
You
say,
can't
"I
say
don't like
1 year is gonna be this, 1 year, but
Well-
depending on the project.
Well, I mean, but we're talking about putting something that would put on the table for the voters to vote for.
Right.
And put that sequence in place to understand, just like as things are run today. That way whoever comes in this seat or whatever that seat is would not be able to just dictate that. Because, before this was consolidated, it worked separate, but there's many things today as we see companies and people are merging businesses together and are coexisting and doing things the way things need to be done to save money and to make sure the work is still getting done. So it just was something I just wanted to ask. I didn't know how they were getting paid, and thank you all for answering that. Thank you, appreciate it.
Incorrectly put out there.
Ms. Cook?
Thank you, Bobby. Yes, it's confusing, but I still believe it's something that maybe with more conversations is possibly doable of what you're talking about, Purvis. But I wanted to just kind of touch on the fix the charter, because Bobby, you were asking about that, and I do feel like it was a good thing. I feel like the parish has now 5 representatives looking out for them. The city has 5, as we had before. And I do think it's really caused us all to be a little more respectful of each other in terms of the dollars, because it all comes down to the control of the money, mostly. Other things, but it all comes down to money at the end of the day. And so I think while there was some respect when it was a city parish as well, I do believe that the parish members or the city members were respectful whose money it was at that time. The lines are a lot clearer now, and so while we don't have things on the city agenda, like we don't vote anything on the sheriff or the courthouse, those are not our issues anymore. The parish takes care of those. And while we do have some joint issues sometimes, I think moving forward, that's the place where we really need to be more aware of what the issues on the joint are in terms of whose dollars it belongs to, so that when we do have those joint ordinances, that we all understand, the intent of them and who's responsible for, again, the financial aspect of that particular ordinance. And so, but the thing about the charter, the change, I think it has made us more aware of those things because, the public, we say this all the time, Lafayette's community is very engaged in government. They are very engaged. They want to know where their dollars are going. And I know a lot of cities and municipalities have that same issue too, but I feel like within the last couple of years, I feel like just at the meetings, we've had more people come out and voice their opinions more or their concerns more about where their dollars are going. And so that change with the charter has kind of made it easier for all of us to help them understand where their money's going, so that, everybody is a little more transparent in terms of where the dollars are being spent. So as far as the question of, do we want to repeal it, I hope that's the consensus of this council, this committee is not to go backwards. I think at this point, we need to be thinking forward. And deconsolidation is not it, okay? We've kind of gotten to that point where we're thinking that's not the way we want to go. But moving forward to see how we can make it work better for each entity, the unincorporated, the city of Lafayette specifically, the whole combination, the whole parish. So I think, to me, that's what our assignment should really be. How do we make it better so that everyone is more comfortable with, how our leaders got into place, the councils and or our mayor president and or just a mayor of Lafayette. So, I guess that's what I would, and again, thank you again for coming because of the, institutional knowledge you have of how things have been running over the last 3, administrations, and to see if there's any way that in your mind, I would ask that you help us understand better, would it work if we had a mayor of Lafayette, a parish president, and how we make those departments work? Because, we can surely draw the lines in the departments that are all city. Police, fire, parks and rec. We know that the mayor of Lafayette would deal with those particular departments. We have specific departments that maybe would be just the parish person. And then it's those crossover ones that it gets fuzzy in terms of who answers to who's responsible to who. But again, there are big corporations that merge, and while they, I guess they merge into where they have one leader. Maybe that's how that works. I don't know. But there might be another mechanism that we can look at to see how it would benefit everybody. I mean, just in terms of, and I'm a city person. I represent the city, so I'm focusing on the city, but I'm also thinking about the whole parish as well. This particular person who is the parish president, he would have more energy to put into not just the unincorporated, but the other municipalities, because they vote him in too. They're his person also. It's not just the unincorporated in the city of Lafayette. The entire parish votes in a parish president. So if I lived in Broussard, I would expect some return from that parish president as well. But while he's so committed to just being, making sure Lafayette gets what they need and making sure the unincorporated gets what they need first, in the consolidation element, which is fine, I'm going to get his third look as a resident of Broussard, and maybe with this split of those two people, I may get at least the second look as a resident of Broussard. So, I'd like to think if there's a way that it would benefit everybody if we had that one job split in half. Again, my 2 cents for what it's worth.
Cool deal. I just want to start off by just wrapping up real quick for me. I think we all agree we don't need to deconsolidate. So I think, like in any good business forum, we need to put out the pros and the cons. We can talk about this till we blue in the face, but until it's put on paper and you start asking those questions, how do you report to this, how do you report to that? Then you got to find out what's the cons, the negatives and the positives, how does it affect taxpayers, how does it affect the people's lives in the city and the unincorporated, and I think you got to go to the town hall and you got to explain what it looks like. I think if we leave it in a political function and political hands, there's too many dibble dabbles. I think the community has to be brought up to speed to say, hey, this is what it looks like if you do it this way. But I think the community needs to know that we're not looking to blow up the government, we're looking to stay consolidated, but you have to engage everybody. You have to ask those tough questions. Not anybody in the audience, not anybody up here, not anybody right there, nobody in the administration has the perfect weapon. We don't know what that is going to be, but I think having a discussion is definitely valuable, but I don't think you can come to a vote and make a decision without knowing the good, the bad, the ugly. How does it affect the future? And then the community needs to understand what they're giving up or what could happen. And that's what we're trying to figure out. So it's a lot of discussions, a lot of stuff that we have to have happen. But I think the community, it takes more than just 3 people in that audience to come out here. It takes more than, you can't, just because you have this place full, that's not the majority of the people in the parish. I mean, the biggest problem I think we have is that there is not enough public involved in truly understanding the difficulties that your job is right now, what it could be in the future, what is the legislative body responsible for as a parish council, what is it responsible for a city council. So, I mean, I think we're singing the same song. I think we have aspirations to try to make it better. I think we all agree that consolidation is where it needs to be for all the various reasons of the grant money and the MERS and the PERS. Can we tweak, can a business make adjustments and make tweaks? Yes, I just think we have to identify legal, what's the problem if we do it this way, then how does it affect the public works director, who's in charge of this? How does it come down to who, well, that director's spending more time in the city because the mayor says he's got this. I mean, you have to, this is not gonna be a 6-month process. This takes community involvement, it takes town hall meetings, but before you can get to a town hall meeting, it takes a true understanding of, let's put this in play, who responds to this person, how does this look, does this parish have to hire their own CAO to handle and book the parish guys' meetings? And the public has to understand, do you want to grow government, do you want to add these positions, or are you okay with the functions but you're just upset because you don't have the one total control of the mayor's office, but you got 5 legislative bodies that you vote that handles your city money. You got 5 I mean, those things the public needs to understand that. They have to comprehend that stuff, To put this on this committee and put it on the other committee without having true people, when I say true people, I'm talking about the average person that doesn't know this guy. Obviously, people, Mr. Leindecker and everybody else, they've been following the government, so they're kind of more involved, but the average person does not have a clue what we're talking about and how does it affect them. So we're on the right page of staying consolidated. I don't think the people needs to worry that we're just going to go out and, hey, we want you to vote to deconsolidate. Well, what does that look like? Well, we don't know, but we just want to break up. You can't just break up and divorce just for the hell of it. You got to know what the consequences are. What's the child support? What's it? I mean.
Well, it kind of sounds like in that scenario, it's more we're not breaking up, we're just getting separate houses, we're just going to separate houses. And so under that scenario, I mean, think about the split councils and what it, did to, our clerk of council and to the staff, the logistical maneuvers that have to be done behind, this wall here. You absolutely would have to hire more people. There would absolutely be separate offices. There would absolutely be, if we think that what we have gone through in terms of reporting and sharing and communicating between 2 councils and an administration, that is totally minimized compared to what we would be going through in those scenarios.
And all I'm saying is, though, that has to be put on paper so that
Right.
everybody can see it, touch it, and
what we're
smell
looking
it.
at.
If you don't put it on paper, you asking this man and everybody else to make a vote without having anything. That's not a smart business decision.
Right.
So What do we have to do? You got to remodel upstairs, split Josh's current office in half, make two doors. No, I'm serious. What does it cost? You have to get to that point, or I'm sorry, nothing's attracting me right now. We just talking the talk. We're talking the same stuff. We're repeating the same stuff, but we're not getting down to the numbers and saying, this is what it's going to cost you. This is the salary. So it might take another year. I know we promised that we're going to try to have something go to I don't think you're going to go to the voters in my time. I think it's going to be, as much as everybody wants me to be the swinging vote, you can do it. I'm not putting my name on the line until I know what the cause and effect is, and then what the public is going to say about that. Is that what they want? It don't matter what we want. It's what they want. And are they willing to pay more?
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. So I'm done.
Cecil?
Sidra, thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful presentation, and I want to compliment you. I've gotten quite fond of you and I've worked to solve a lot of problems with Sidra. She gets things done. Thank you so much.
Back at you.
I actually, I've never learned anything with my mouth open, so I've sat and listened to a lot of this, but I actually believe that we have a mayor in our position right now. I disagree with the fact that, and I voted for deconsolidation in 2011. I've made that clear when they asked me to be on this panel. But I don't agree today, and I think it's working and it's tweaking, and that's what we're here to do, is to tweak. But anyhow, I'm curious about what we might have missed out on, or what the consensus is that we missed out on in representation in this particular mayor-president title versus having Lafayette having a mayor. What is the consensus of what we might have, any representation we might have missed out on? Because I don't see it. Again, I've come back, we've got all the young mayors of Broussard, Scott, you know, I mean, these guys are blowing and going.
Yep.
And Josh has the same fire under him it's fun to watch. Anyhow, right now, it looks like it's working better than I've ever seen
Very
it.
well.
So I'm just kind of curious if you get calls, you get people talking to you about things in the public, and what has been the things that what they said they missed out on, any kind of representation?
No, not at all. And thank you for the question. And it didn't, I could have responded to Councilwoman Cook. It didn't feel like it was, a response opportunity, but it's, the mayor-president's office is working so well as it's intended, and to the point about, representing the parish. We do represent the parish. When Mayor President Guillory goes to those mayor's meetings, he's there, with his parish president hat on and as his mayor hat on, and how can I work together with my peers? And so, those parish citizens are represented. We have never, ever, once ever said, we're not going to do something, for a parish citizen because, I'm the mayor today or something like that. If a parish citizen needs something, they get as much attention as a city citizen. So when it comes down to dealing with people and representing people, we feel like everybody has representation. I can't think of a representation matter where a citizen felt unsatisfied or felt underrepresented. Certainly there are challenges that, we have to work through when there's requests or needs or wants, but that boils down to money. That doesn't boil down to, I'm not here fighting for you to get what you want. It's just, boils down to money. So the representation component of it for me, I understand that I'm biased. I see none of that from the city versus the parish. I don't see any issue. I think Councilwoman Cook's position is more of on the flip, where the concept could be that eventually the outside cities, outside the city, have a greater population. So let's focus on making Lafayette the best place it can be to live, work, and play. We're working on those things right now, working with developers to build downtown, to increase residentials downtown. Frankly, it's only natural that the outside parishes, outside municipalities would grow because, Lafayette's kind of landlocked. And so that's where we have to think about the next step for our city, and that's growing up rather out, or making certain parts of our city more attractive for residential development. So, I think we have to start thinking about things in a way that, here's our challenge. How do we address the challenge versus how do we undo this, or how do we really address the challenge? And it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive, I mean, if it went to the people and it was decided that, we figured out a way and they're willing to accept all the costs that's going to come along with a parish president and a mayor, we're still going to work to make the city of Lafayette and the parish of Lafayette the best place it can be. But it doesn't have to be that it's one's underrepresented. I just don't see it that way.
Like Mr. Narcan was saying, if it figured out a way that needed to be divided, that would be fine and all that. But in our present situation, our mayor-president is elected by the people of Youngsville and Karen Crow and Broussard and Scott and Dusson. So he has to work with them. So he's elected by them, and if he wouldn't work with them and be partial to the city then he wouldn't have it anyway. So it seems like this situation is as good as it's going to get, and I'm content with it. But
Yeah.
Thank you for a fabulous presentation.
Thank you.
Good.
Senator, before I yield over to Ned, so you worked for 3 administrations.
I did.
Right? Every leader has a vision, right?
Absolutely.
You had the privilege of being on the inside,
Yes.
hearing the conversation, right?
Yes.
If my memory serves me correctly, the first time that I heard any mention about Lafayette having its own mayor, it surfaced in Joey Durrell's administration. Am I correct in saying that?
I think that's correct, yes.
Right. Were you there? Kevin talks about cause and effect. Usually if you get down to the
Yeah.
root, you can figure out what's the problem, what's the best step forward. Were you there when that conversation began, or did you know why he would have brought that up?
I
or-
sincerely don't remember any conversations that I was a part of during my period with City Parish President Durrell.
Well, that would have been probably the second term that came into play, yeah. So, yeah, it'd be before. 2012, 2010.
Right.
It's just an ask.
Nope.
Ms. Cook?
Yes, Sidra, I'm in agreement with you. Don't.
Oh, I know.
I know,
We're
but yeah,
good.
don't pass out, because I know sometimes we don't agree, but I'm in total agreement with you in terms of Josh has been putting, his focus into a lot of things in the city. Great things are happening. And so right now it's good. I don't have a problem with what he's doing in the city. That's not what it's about. I guess I'm looking maybe toward the future. Again, we go back to that 51% in the city. As a mayor-president, the electoral, vote comes from everybody in the parish. Okay, at what point do we have someone in Youngsville that wants to run for parish president and becomes parish president? And they are now Youngsville person, they're parish president. They don't live in the city of Lafayette. How can I, as a Lafayette resident, feel like I'm being really represented? So I guess my concern is moving forward. We're at 51, let's say it becomes 50-50. Eventually it's going to happen unless we do something to protect the city of Lafayette for having someone from Lafayette, being the mayor of that city. And I know Josh and I have had this conversation, and he said, well, what if we put something, that to be mayor president, you have to live in the city of Lafayette? I don't think you can constitutionally do that, because that person has to represent the whole parish. I don't think you can dictate that they not live in one of the other municipalities. So I guess that's one of my concerns. It's not urgent today. We're okay at this moment, I guess, but I'm thinking that's where the push is, to maybe have someone just from the city of Lafayette, because I just fear that maybe it's going to happen. We have someone outside of the city as the mayor president, which would be fine if they were representing the whole parish, So that's just one of my concerns.
Sure, I think
And maybe it won't happen
I think
in
it'd
my
be-
lifetime. I don't know.
yeah. It'd be incredibly difficult. I mean, the city still is going to, if you look at the voter turnout and the counts,
Right.
the city's still the higher, turnout. And I'm not, I look at, Mr. Teely is the numbers guy, but it's hard to imagine a scenario where someone outside of the city could be elected because the city is going to be turning out to making sure that they are electing the person that they feel like best represents them. And if citizens don't feel like a citizen of another municipality, or even the parish for that matter, best represents the city of Lafayette, then it really is incredibly hard when you think about it, that to imagine that person would get elected because the city is going to be turning out to vote on that person.
And at 51%, I would agree with you, but like I said, what if we get to 50-50? Then you got a 50-50 shot that, somebody from the outside could win. So, I mean, I'm just
But you just have
playing
to also
devil's
look at
advocate
voter
here.
patterns is my point,
Right. But I mean, anything's possible. But I guess that's.
Anything is
that's
possible in
my
this scenario.
concern.
You're right.
Yeah, but anyway, that's just the point I wanted to make, but.
Thanks, I understand.
Mr. Will?
I wanted to respond to Sidra. You had said something to Mr. Eason with his question. And again, being the accountant, I'm going to the numbers, the allocation formulas, is that I heard you say that if a parish resident comes to the mayor, he gets as much attention from the mayor president than if he were a city person, right?
Absolutely.
But again, I go to the allocation formulas. The mayor president's salary is 80% from the city and 20% from the parish.
Yes.
So as that accountant, as that following the dollars, like I expect the mayor to be focusing 80% of his time on the city. And that's where my heartburn kind of comes in, when I don't see that, if that's not happening and if that can't be
Well,
proven.
What I should have clarified is that when a parish resident comes, they only get a 20-minute meeting with the
Sure,
mayor
and I'm not
versus
saying-
the hour meeting from the city. That's what
That's tough.
That's why I have no meetings.
We elect them for good government.
So,
Right.
But that certainly, the mayor doesn't put in 40 hours a week, okay? So certainly.
he's putting in over 40 hours a week.
He doesn't just put in 40 hours a week. I'm saying, that time is certainly made up, dedicated to that parish citizen, because, it's not a 40-hour-a-week job. It's well in excess of that. So in my scenario, if we really wanted to get down to it, we wanted to look at the calendar, and I know that the media is listening and they've, requested it, you could look and you could see, but that parish citizen is absolutely going to get as much time as the city citizen, and we're just going to make it up somewhere else.
As CAO, in overseeing all the LCG departments, the shared departments is the ones I care about. Obviously, LUS is 100% city, libraries and parish jail, and that's all parish. But the shared departments, is there anything we can do to have people to follow the expenses, the labor expense, the materials expense, the projects in city versus parish, to give everyone the reassurance that these allocation formulas are accurate? I think we are going to fight with each other. We are not going to align, right? Our mission is to align. We're not going to align until the public sees that the allocation formulas are correct and accurate.
Well, I'll just say it bluntly. I think the answer is no, because I think that people have a preconceived notion of whether they trust it or they don't. And I think that we can do our best to demonstrate that it is fair and it's equitable, because it is. But you want to know if we could if we can convince people, and I think the answer is no. I think they're either going to trust it or they're not. So I think people have a preconceived notion as to whether or not they trust it.
There's no, in my line of work.
But you asked me if we could convince the citizens,
If
and
we
my
could
answer is, I
we
don't
could
believe we can
produce
convince them,
support.
because we can spit out everything. It's incredibly complicated, as you are well aware. I know you're very studied and versed, but I think that all we can do is do our best, because what it boils down to is communication and trust. So
And that trust needs to be earned. Like
I fully agree
I've got to
with you.
see that. I got to see, yeah, Josh spent 80% of his time on city matters, pushing city projects, and I'm like, I feel good. Then great, keep it. It's good.
I fully agree with you, and we can't discount the political positions and stances that people are going to take and stand firm in, regardless of the facts that are laid at their feet. So you asked me if we could convince the citizens. I think that we can do a good job of demonstrating that we've done a very responsible and equitable allocation. I think that we can absolutely do that. Can I convince everybody? No, I don't believe I can, because some people are going to have a different position that they're going to come from, and they're just not going to allow it to be the truth, whether it is or not.
So then let's back off.
Just speaking frankly.
Yeah, well, then let's back off on that one. Can we just show them the data? Just show them.
We can certainly
Literally.
attempt
And
to, absolutely.
Even if it was a sliver, even if it was like 1 month of the year, and we did a time study, and this is how the numbers played out.
I would say that out of an abundance of caution and professional courtesy, that these are questions that we should absolutely pluck Ms. Lori Toops' brain about, because as you know, like I said, I cannot overstate the complexity of it, whether you're a consolidated government or not. Our governmental accounting is complex, and she spent her first year, I believe, just trying to understand, all of our complexities of it. So I think we are in absolute agreement. We absolutely have to do our best job of demonstrating and sharing with the public, communicating with the public, working with the councils on how these things function and how the splits work and how it happens. And at the same time, I don't know that people are either going to be able to understand it because it's incredibly complex and I don't understand it. A lot of times I just have to put my faith in Lori Toops as a person who, wakes up sleeping, dreaming about it. Or we have to say, I understand it enough, I've developed enough confidence in it, it's been a transparent process, while it's over my head, I trust it at this point. So that's where I think we should be, to say we're definitely on the same page with that.
Could we bring Lori Toops to speak with?
That is on that is our attempt.
Okay.
Also, just one point about the city versus the parish meetings. As this example, is this the parish citizen is going to get as much attention as the city citizen? The city citizen needs, or at least requests for meetings in this scenario, is far greater than the parish. So while the parish resident is going to get an hour meeting with the mayor is also, the parish president is also meeting for 5 hours with city residents in that scenario. Just to clarify about the allocation of time.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to add, I think Laurie had testified before the previous thing, that there's so much emphasis placed on the allocation formula, but less than 5% of our budget has an allocation formula. Police doesn't, fire doesn't, LUS doesn't, fiber doesn't, transit doesn't, zoning doesn't, so there's very little of our budget has an allocation formula, and 90% of the rhetoric is about the allocation formula, and that's not the big deal.
I mean, we're here because of the allocation formula, I think. Yeah. Yeah, there's no argument on the other departments. We need to align on that 5% that shares costs. And that's what I'm looking for, that data.
Well, last I spoke with Mayor Guillory, he reassured me that he is all about and encourages and is amenable to do anything to support transparent accounting, and however, if we were to ask, the staff is strapped. As a matter of fact, I think a couple of months ago, you guys had to approve for additional staff to kind of help out, if I'm not mistaken, right? The council's approved to add. So they do not, the staff doesn't have within its capacity or time for the administration to commit them to say, let me give you another report. But he is open for any kind of commission, but said, I'm not paying for it. So that means that whoever would want to look into that, or, Am I off? Isn't that stuff already online? Like all the accounting, the majority, right? The books are open,
It
right?
is, and Lori says that pretty much every time, she's asked, it's available online, but that doesn't mean it's easy to understand.
Okay. So it is available. So
The detail, is not there, because you would have, right, but
Right.
it's,
perhaps if Lori accepts our invitation and we get her here next, I think that's really where the rubber is going to meet the road. Am I on the right track there? Yeah, agreed? Yeah. Well, anybody else? You good? Sidra, thank you so much.
no, really, thank you all. I appreciate
You
the
stood
opportunity.
up the whole time. She did ask to sit.
Well, I just meant, well, I didn't know.
But thank you. You have been a breath of fresh air.
Well, thank you. I
Thank you
really appreciate the
so much.
opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to applaud, right? Not easy, right? Let's do it. Thank you. Thank you.
But before I close, I do want to just say thank you. I know that, as much effort as I put into this, I had to be here one time. You're really giving up a lot, whether it's babysitting or working. I know we all have to make it up. So thank you for putting this effort in and through this transparent process. I appreciate you very much.
Bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ms. Williams, is there any public comment?
Yes, sir. We do have one speaker, Bill Linedecker.
All right, well, Mr. Bill, just want to remind everyone, this is the time to speak about topics relative to the CPA Commission. No debating, confrontational statements, or personal attacks or encouraged whatsoever. They'll be strongly discouraged. Please remain respectful for efficiency and to allow everyone the opportunity to speak. Questions should be submitted in writing to the clerk council. Lastly, you are reminded of the 3-minute rule, right? Thank you, Bill. Glad you're here.
All right, nice to see you. Just 2 things from that presentation. Number one, if we operate in such a complex system, why is it so complex? How come it can't be simple? Okay, just like Mr. Nakhan said, let's simplify everything. We don't need a complex system. If we can't understand it, no one is. All right. Number 2, she talked about having a parish person get a meeting with the mayor president and a city person. Well, I've been trying 8 months through my city councilman to get a meeting, not getting one. So I believe that if we had our own exclusive full-time mayor, then you'd have somebody to meet with city residents and someone to meet with parish residents. Pretty darn simple to me. Okay? You made some great points, Mr. Morrison. Okay? If through the course of 25 years the present government has shortchanged the parish, the unincorporated areas in any particular way, why keep it going? Why? That's why functional consolidation should be looked at as specifically as humanly possible. Okay? The things that Kevin Blanchard said, the things that you've read, okay? Why can't we do that? I don't know, all right? As Mr. Nakhan said, are there going to be any plans for town hall meetings as the Protect the City Committee had? Any discussion about that yet?
Yes, we did talk about that, and I'm sure the commissioners will want to have town hall meetings to get that input.
Great. I know I sent Mr. Richard a long list of perhaps subcommittees. Mr. Nakhan seems to want to start studying the numbers, because anything that I say, anything that she says, anything that anybody says is pure conjecture without numbers. So, are there going to be any subcommittees that this commission is going to create to look at the numbers and to look at ways to effectively and efficiently separate certain departments of the government?
Bill, I'm not taking any of your time, right? So this is your time.
This is my time.
I'll come back and
That's all
address
I need
anything
to
else.
know is,
Yeah.
are we going to have subcommittees, or are we just going to, like Mr. Nakhan so eloquently put, just sit and talk about it? Because there are no facts until we have some numbers, okay? Mr. Tabor, he's a businessman. He likes to see numbers. You like to see numbers, don't you? Sure you do, okay? As a mayor, former mayor, you like to see numbers, don't you? That's all I'm asking, okay? You like to see numbers, Mr. Eason? Absolutely. All right, very good. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill. And prayerfully, Lori will accept the invitation and she'll bring some good, she'll bring some good numbers. That's the hope. So let's talk a little bit about where we're going, a little forecast. I can tell you my hope, I think there's only 2 more meetings that are allotted from the Parish Council for our commission. 3, right? There's 3 meetings left, right? And my thought is we definitely want to get, yeah, there's 3. The first one didn't count, right?
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That was just the introduction.
No, not that. It was 6 of our meetings, not the formation meeting. But, so anyways, I think the 2 people who really left are the 2 places that I really want to hear before I even think about, I'm not speaking for you, it's like I got to hear from Lori, and I got to hear from legal, right? And so I want you to know that I am working on the legal, and so that's out there as well as Miss Lori. So that would be my hope, that maybe we can get Miss Lori in next time we meet, and that her schedule permits, followed by legal to come in and answer some of those questions. Here, go ahead. Well, whatever, listen, I could use your help, right? That's my ask. My ask is give me the.
Klondike would be, he's asking for numbers. We have Mr. Klondike, what he wants from us.
Yeah, maybe.
I know Will's a CPA, but I'm not.
I mean, it's the allocation formulas, right? Those are the numbers we're talking about, right? Like,
Well, and it's not just the allocation formula as well. It's how we go about communicating them, right? Like. And look, for Bill's point, it's conjecture here. I'd love to be able to have Lori and let her speak for herself, but I thought I'd heard in previous conversation, maybe right even here in the council, that she was amenable to the idea of separate ledgers or whatever that would make it a little streamlined, right? Did you bring that up, Will, if I'm not mistaken? I don't know. No, she was talking about money directly in, like, and directly out, so it wouldn't be shared, right? Is what I thought.
the funds.
The fund, yeah.
Yeah, the city currently pays out all the money and then the parish reimburses.
Correct, versus just
Checking
tracking.
accounts, that was Protect the City wanted that as well.
Yeah. So, look, my ask is any questions, it would help me, right? Like, to be able to at least go in, because she's going to have to prepare.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to just come and say, talk to us, right? So here's specifically what we're looking at, Lori. So I would welcome that. Here's my thought, right, to kind of sum up where we're at. What I do see, again, I do believe that there are 2 venues here, 2 veins. Part of the stuff that we're entertaining, it is philosophical. I think it is political. It's political and philosophical conversation. I think the second aspect, the second role of this thing, it is, and again, I'm not trying to, please be patient with me, I'm for absence of words, but the role is functional, right? What works, it's where the rubber meets the road, and I'm not trying to steal the idea. I think people presented the idea of functional consolidation. But the functional matters, right? And here's what I've heard so far, right? Because how do we make it better? I've heard that, how do we clarify what's a city issue, what's a parish issue, and what's a joint issue, right? How do we clarify that? And so we're not having to have joint council meetings and people voting, and how do we really, am I on track there? I got 2 councilmen here, right?
Those things have become better.
Yeah.
Since the split. So yes, so those are better.
And it,
But not perfect. Like, the ARPA was an issue.
so
Again, that came down to the dollars. Whose dollars are they?
That's
Should
correct.
we decide who gets to vote on it?
thanks, so.
There's still some issues.
All the money.
So again, right, I still think that there's, what I did here is that how do we communicate and what is, and how do we, right? And of course, number 2 is simply the tangible stuff that I can bite into is what does the allocation process look like, right? I'm still hearing that conversation. Is there any way to simplify or communicate, a simplified way to communicate the allocation process? I've also heard over the last 3 times that we've met, or 4 times, like, is there a way to make it transparent, right? I've heard that question as well, right? So and I draw this, some of the proposals were, do we do intergovernment agreements, things like that, with some of the stuff that we had discussed. But is it transparent? I'm thinking, I would hope that it is transparent. I'd like to take that word off, because we hold public council meetings. It is transparent. I think it goes right back to the question, how do we simplify and communicate it? That's what I heard Sidra saying, right? Like, how do we communicate to the citizen? And lastly, how the other thing was the tangible point, like, how do we use a city attorney to resolve the disputes that are there, right? Some tangible things. And that, to me, that's where legal steps in, and we ask the hard questions, because I do believe that the city council is able to hire its attorney for special, but you got to identify, and that's just some of the verb. Well, what's the special on that, right? So yes, defined it, right? So that's just some of the work of the communication. So here's my thought. My thought is, preferably Ms. Flory will come next week or next month and follow, right, help me, right? And then after that, we can hear from legal and really get in the weeds of this thing and have something, a good grip to grab a hold on to. And then we'll determine from there, where do we go from there, right? But like, do we meet again just to discuss what are the thoughts? What might be a proposal, right? Like, how do we summarize our findings or whatever, or are we going to go forward? Do we need more time? Maybe in that next meeting. Any feedback? I'd love to hear from you in terms of that.
I'm not sure, if he knows our definition of what we're doing here. I think, we're doing that. We're trying to fix consolidation, I think he believes that we're not city council people yet.
Well, I know, he was on the city committee, and they did do subcommittees.
Right.
One did this, one did that, and so I think that's what he was referring to.
I know him well, we're good friends. I need to, I'm
And I
not
think
sure what
that's-
he needs, yeah.
I think that's what drew them apart,
Yeah.
because if you heard,
Well, it's everybody
when they
but
came
Mark,
and present, they were
Mark
apart.
Pope.
Mark Pope, they
Pope
were all
was
apart with all
unhappy.
these subcommittees.
Yeah,
I think us,
yeah.
at the end of the day, as Bobby said, we listen to legal, we bring our resolve together. Then if a committee is needed after that,
Yeah.
then, but I mean,
Questions
you know,
for Lori. That's committee itself.
that's right. I mean, I think,
Listen, and I'm open, right? I knew it when somebody, I don't know who it was, nominated Charles, like, oh my God, that means you do the work. I knew it.
But we're bringing the problems to the surface too. I mean, we disagree on, well, a couple of things. We disagree on whether the city should be able to hire their own attorney.
Yeah.
That was a topic for us to deal with. A mayor of Lafayette, we have differences of opinion right here on this board, but there's the things that are topics. The same thing, allocation, we want to know allocation of time. How do we, I don't see it as a bigger deal, but some other people do as a bigger deal because the money is important. Now, when it comes to money, absolutely, we want to know about allocation. Time, we elect them for good government. You can't manage that. But those are all things that we brought up in the surface and we talked about and trying to understand where we're going with it. And we really don't have any answers, but that's what we're here for, is to recognize the problems and see what we can and can't do at the end of the deal. Maybe we can get some resolve. The people should give us some of these answers, And then we've learned a lot. I've sure learned a lot, I can tell you that.
So what I'm saying, Paul, is simply this, right? My ask is if you send me something. Send me what you're thinking. I just gave you my bullet point of what I'm hearing, right? And of course, you hear, like, I'm asking the question, can we resolve this by memorandum of understanding? Is that what we suggest to the council? Well, okay, so do we have to put together a memorandum of understanding, or we just, I don't think that that's what the parish is asking us to do. I don't
think that's necessary.
Right? They're just saying, hey, listen, tell me what do you say? But if you send me your thoughts, your bullet points, what are you seeing now? And you start feeding me, I'll start to collect that stuff, I'll put it together, that when we meet, and then maybe put the effort in to draft something streamlined. I'm not doing, I think Protect the City had 24 pages. I'm pretty sure, I don't think it's necessary. I'm not doing it. But if I could summarize it, you know.
Just answer the question.
So should all of us kind of take a stab at answering these questions based on what we've heard? And we're all going to kind of have little different answers on them, but then just to start getting
Just to
a
kind of start
report
compiling,
going,
yeah.
maybe, and then maybe kind of send you our thoughts on these answers. Would that help you?
Good place. Well, listen, I don't know, Brian, I didn't understand, like, this was just a launch point. The questions were a launch point. It wasn't that you guys were expecting us to answer every one of these questions, right? It was a launch point for conversation, am I
I
right?
agree. That's the way I took it, yeah. I mean, how would we know if Parish tax dollars are being spent within the city of Lafayette unless Laurie told us? And we already know the answer, but the bottom line is a launch point to the front that
But I mean, now we know. I think these questions are good for us to use
Yes.
as a guide, because now we kind of know, I believe that they're not. I
We had
believe
to have
that
topics,
They
you know?
answer the question that they're, we've made some adjustments and they're not being spent outside of the
Right.
city. So, I mean, I feel like we've gotten some information for us to really objectively answer some of these questions, and maybe
Exactly.
each one of us might have a different take, and that's what we,
I mean, we went from deconsolidation now.
to everybody's.
Pretty much agrees that not to deconsolidate because it's gonna hurt.
Oh, we aligned.
Yeah, look at that. And then
Mission accomplished.
and repeal the charter. I think we all agreed today
That's true. I think we
shouldn't
changed.
repeal it.
We changed some minds on that.
That the parish benefited by getting one more representation with one more person. So yeah, I mean, I feel like these are probably good questions that I like that idea of us answering these maybe and sending them to you, and we can,
Yeah, so, fine, well, I'm good with that. Just be patient with me.
We've got homework.
I'm willing to do the work, right? And streamline it, maybe put a draft or whatever. I bring it here, and then, we add in, we discuss it, right? We
Yeah.
amend it. And then that last month, I mean, if we need more time, we'll ask for more time, but maybe that last month, we can meet every week until we put it up for a vote. We find something that we can put up for a vote. And that's
sounds good.
the sprint at the end, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sprint.
What do you think?
Good?
I think it's good. I think it's good.
Lord, help me remember everything I said.
I think it's good.
If I walk out the door, I'm gonna be
We'll watch it again, yeah.
confronting something else. So, amen. Well, nothing else said. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 9th, same time, right? Adjourned. Awesome. Appreciate you guys.
So terrible. Capital improvement projects, we as council people get a list of those. And
Okay.
So if we're tracking where public works dollars are spent, that would be, to me, that would be a great way that they could give us an idea of, okay, if we're looking at the percentages, these projects are happening, because you know where they're happening. So
Right.
those projects are in the city, those projects are in the parish, so to me, that would be a mechanism that they could use